Really? Really? Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for quite many more people. We'll be giving some few minutes, 5 minutes, all right, to have more people joining before we start the section. Kindly exercise patience while we wait for others to join. Thank you.
All right. I think I can see Flow Maker 111 joined. I can see Sylvetly, sorry if I didn't pronounce it well. Josh joined. Anastasia Amarachi, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining. Come to think of it, Ini, you would
Yes.
notice that a lot of us no longer do Nigerian time. This is 3:06, and I think we have about 13 people who have joined. So I think
Right.
these ones deserve a round of applause. So we appreciate you, Skinny Winnie. We see you, Skinny Winnie 9. We see you. We appreciate you. Solo Whiz. That sounds more like Whiskey. Thank you. We also cite you. Yes, thank you for joining. Pearl, Pearl's pattern. Thank you for also joining. We cite you and we appreciate you. Um,
Okay. Let's see. All right. We'll just give 2 minutes more, and then we'll start the section. Right. Okay. Yes. Thank you again, everyone, for being a part of Instagram live section for today. We're so excited to have you. With me on this live section is my colleague, um, Elizabeth. Allow her to introduce herself, of course. She will be giving us very, very massive insights as to what you should know about writing your personal statement. What really is a personal statement even? When you hear statement of purpose or personal statement, what really is it about? Uh, my colleague will be doing justice to that. Elizabeth, you want to say hello to our guests?
All right. Thank you, Ini, and good afternoon, everyone. Want to appreciate everyone that's joined. Juicy Silver, Juicy, I can't really see some names. Please pardon me in case I don't pronounce them well. We appreciate everyone that has joined, and we are hopeful you will find this 1 hour Instagram session quite insightful as you commence your journey to Australia. Please, you will see a pinned post there. Please click on that to register so that our contact center team can reach out to you, and then you can commence your student journey to Australia. Now, Lord Henry, thank you for joining. Now, personal statement of purpose. Some people call it statement of purpose, others call it personal statement. Now, personal statements, it's a very unique write-up. For me, I would say it is more or less marketing yourself. It is a marketing document to convince the person at the other end why you intend to go study in Australia. I'll be sharing with us those key things that is expected to be seen on our personal statement or statement of purpose, as some people call it. Now, the first thing you want to have on your personal statement is what we call introduction. Now, you want to introduce yourself in the sense that you want to demonstrate your personal circumstance, more or less like your marital status, your age, your current location, and what course you are applying for. That's one part. That's a part under introduction. Another thing is you want to demonstrate your family composition. You want to say if you have a family relative, current, who is a current resident in the country. And then you also want the reviewer or the admissions officer to know if you are a single applicant or not in this application. So that should be like your introduction. That A, B, C should capture that. Now, moving on, you want to talk about your education and working experience background. Remember, I mentioned that it is you marketing or selling yourself. So selling yourself entails your introductory aspect, your education, your career, and then others. So we are moving on now. The second aspect or second paragraph should contain your education and your working experience background. So your educational background is very important. You have to state the correct timeline in the sense that, for instance, let's say your high school or your secondary school is from January 2020 to January 2000 or 2026 or whatever. So you want to state that And then you also want to include from your high school, you obtained your O levels or your WAEC, how you moved to your bachelor's, and then moving on to your NYC and all of that. So your education background with correct timeline. Now, that's a part under your second paragraph. Next to it is you want to mention your previous and current working experience. Please include the timeline and job description. Make sure it matches with your CV. Now, we need to be very careful at this point. For Australia, whatever position or whatever you're stating, you must have documentary evidence to back that up. So if you're mentioning previous work experience, you must ensure that you have in place a document issued from those various places of work, more or less like your employment letter, to validate your stand. Now, again, you also want to state if you have any gaps between your studies and work. You need to explain. Let's say when you completed your NYC, you had to stay back for 2 years before you eventually got your job. Let's say you were doing volunteer or paid internship in between. You also want to explain that. Now, another thing now is at this stage, after those explanation, you then make the admissions officer or the reviewer to know the reason that made you to decide to study abroad. So you have to state that. Now, in defending your reasons, now it will now be paragraph 3. It's you stating why you don't want to study in your home country. Now, a lot of us may get it mixed up at this point. Please, we would implore you to limit portraying. We all know what is happening in the country, the same as the persons reviewing our documents from the other end. But even at that, we would appeal that you tense or lower down your words or using derogatory words to explain the situation in the country. Everybody is aware of strike, everybody is aware of limited or non-infrastructure. But the thing that you have to realize is it is from this same country that you are getting the basic academic requirements that is enabling you or wanting you to move on to the next stage. So if you successfully paint Nigeria in the bad lights, giving all the 1001 reasons why Nigeria is bad, you are giving an impression that questions your current academic certificate. So we may want to tone down our voice more or less. You may want to look at areas where you may say our own curriculum is more theoretical based than practical based. You may want to look at the course outline and then make comparisons. So in that light, you are not tarnishing your home country, but you are giving cogent reasons to show why you're not studying in your home country. Now, you need to also explain academic reasons, which I've mentioned, instead of mentioning because the tuition fee is this that. No, you have to do your research on the course. Look at the course outline. That will enable you make or demonstrate academic reasons. Another thing you want to mention to convince the reviewer is if there's a similar course delivery in your home country. Now you make that comparison. So let's say, for instance, I want to go do cyber security. So you have to look at if they at all they offer that program in Nigeria. If they do, what are the differences in terms of the course outline? Why? And then you may want to make, like I mentioned, lend more voice to the practicability that you would get to experience if you tend to study in Australia compared to your home country. Now, we're going to move on to the next, which is like paragraph 4. Why do you intend to study in Australia? Now, to back up your reasons, you have to state which countries are you considered. maybe you had considered UK. So it's more or less making a comparison to convince the reviewer why Australia is the country for you. So you want to say, for instance, you looked at the UK, you looked at the Australia, perhaps you want to come from the cultural aspect, say Australia is a multicultural country, and that's why you want to experience that. You want to look at the weather and all of that. So those are the things you can do to explain why you have chosen Australia. Now, please always think of other reasons instead of talking about cheap tuition or living costs. Because technically, if you look at any other country and you do the conversion rates, let's say you look at UK, pounds is even higher than Australian dollars. So if you look at it and you are saying Australia is cheaper, the person reviewing from the end already has this notion, or you would have created this notion that you may not have enough financial capacity. So there are implications to whatever statements you are making. And remember, the person reviewing it is not reviewing it in the light of a Nigerian, is assessing and reviewing it based on their own criteria in that clime. So we want to be careful about using terms like tuition, cheap tuition fee, cheap living costs. There are other reasons available online to buttress our points. Now, you also then move to, let's say, the fifth paragraph. Why have you chosen that particular school? Have you considered other institutions in Australia? Why didn't you choose them? And then why have you decided to go with this school? So more or less, your statement of purpose is like making a comparison. You are weighing other available options, letting the reviewer see, but also backing up your stand that irrespective of all of this, I've decided to go with this school. Now, you want to move on to one of the crux of the matter, which is why do you want to study the course? And that's where you have to do your research properly. This information are readily available on the school website. It's just that a lot of us do not create time to look at this, go to the website to do our little research. So you have to state the skills you hope to acquire for when you study this course or upon completion of the course. You want to state the careers you are aiming at. And then you also want the person to see, let's say for instance, you read a bachelor's in biochemistry, you graduated 5 years back, but you've been working as a business analyst. You get, and you've been making good money from there. So you want to go do masters in business analytics. You must be able to convince this person how business analytics is related. There are different ways to convince someone related to both your academic and professional background, you get. And then you can also, from the course outline, highlight few subjects that are really areas of interest in the degree and demonstrate why. To show that you really know the school you want to go to, you are conversant, they expect you to also state which campus would you like to study and why did you choose the campus. State the intake you are applying for. In some situations, the schools also expect you to give an idea of what the annual fees will be for the course. This goes to show that you have done your research properly. Another thing you want to share on your statement of purpose, which is very, very important, is your immigration history. And that is if applicable. Please please do not at any time try to prevent or hide information as regards if you've had any visa refusals in time past to any country. If you've had cases of overstay, please do not attempt to hide that because the school needs to be aware. One, when you do that, it's already a red flag, and you wouldn't want to be caught under the web of lack of integrity. So if you have a visa refusal, please state it. Provide the time and the reason why it was refused. And then you have to, let's say for instance, it was refused on the basis of perhaps there was not enough ties to your home country. There was your financial capacity at that moment was not okay. Or so you have to provide explanation as to what has changed over time. So let's say as at when you applied, perhaps your annual income was say 5 million. Now you have upgraded and your annual income estimate is about 12 million. So it gives them an impression that your financial capacity has improved over time. Again, you want to state what is the benefit of the course for your future. That question is something that is very important because looking at it, after going to Australia to acquire knowledge, spending millions of naira, the ask is whatever intention you have, it's secondary, but they always want to know is how will this course benefit your future? They want to know. And then you also want to convince the reviewer that based on your country issue, how will this course, or by the time you complete this program, how can it provide a higher remuneration? So let's say you were a business analyst at your place of work, and then you apply for this course, you were granted an offer all the way down to getting your visa approved, or before then rather. They always want to see, because remember you'll be providing your employment letters and your pay slips as part of your documents for GTE. They want to see how acquiring this knowledge would change or improve your economic situation. So they want you to show us, maybe perhaps you were working in a private organization, and then after the completion of your program, you would be eligible to apply to blue chip companies where they want to see your designation. Perhaps you move on to become a supervisor, and then that would also lead to a higher remuneration. So they want to see that. Now, like I said, you need to research some companies you like to work for. So it's not just mentioning any company. You have to mention a company within the space or sector related to what you have studied. So you wouldn't want a situation where, as a business analyst, or let me use another example, as let's say you want to go do nursing, and then you are mentioning a school that is where you, yes, I know that there are school nurses, but to be candid, it does not really align. Why would a nurse when we have different hospitals scattered everywhere across the country, and we are already experiencing shortage of medical personnel? So why would you, after graduating, want to go work in a school? So it has to be an organization or company within the space or sector you have studied. So you mentioned that you need to state what your job role will be. Like I mentioned, if you were initially a business analyst, perhaps when you complete this to become a supervisor or a senior business analyst, you want to state that, and then you want to state your remuneration. So you also need to explain how this course will link into these roles as well. Now, it is also very important because you'll be mentioning your previous place of work, and then you can also include your job reference link. So at this point, I want to break down some things. We've had people who are freelance graphic personnel that do their artwork, maybe people that are into arts field. We would require you to put a link that will show your work, because this will further allow the person reviewing to understand that, okay, you've been a freelance or you've been self-employed, but these are your works that you've done over time. So this will give a sense of, this will convince the reviewer that in actual sense, what you are stating is real. Like I said, you cannot just state something for the purpose of stating. For Australia, as you're stating it, there must be documentary evidence to back whatever you are stating. And D Plenty, thank you for joining. You Liso, thank you for joining as well. Now, another important thing you want to include is to state if you have onshore relatives and your sponsor details. If you have onshore relatives, please, I will implore you to state it on your statement of purpose. You also want to provide their current visa and then visa status, relationship to you, if they are your brother, your sister, your uncle, and how long have they been in Australia. Now, we have to be very careful at this point, in the sense that if you are being requested to provide their current visa, you have to know or ask, make inquiries. Why? That is very important. And then what that statement wants to achieve is, let's say your brother or your sister already has their permanent residence in Australia. However, they went through a visitor's visa and over time they regularized. The implication of that is, and that's why our actions today could influence that of our immediate families. Now, that kind of information, if they look at the situation, they wait to see if this person has come in on the right visa. If the person has not come in or did not come in on the right visa, it gives an impression that you could likely do the same. So that is why we also we need to be careful as well in terms of getting our visas, because there's an aftermath effect. As it affects, as you can see here, it can affect relatives that have intention or people that have intention to come study in Australia. Now, you have to come, like I mentioned, you have to provide your sponsor's details. In terms of if you're using a sponsor, please note sponsors they have categories for Australia. Can be self-sponsored, spouse if you're married, direct brother or sister, direct uncle or aunt from either your maternal or your paternal side. Your parents and your grandparents can act as sponsor. So you have to provide your sponsor's details in the sense of yearly income, where they are located, their job position, how much will they sponsor. When you say how much will they sponsor, we've seen situations where people have sponsors, but their sponsors are not willing to provide 100%. We've had situations where sponsors may say they want to provide 80%, while you as the individual or the potential students will be providing 20%. So you need to state there. Now, another very important thing that needs to be mentioned, it is very, very important, is your incentive to return home. Incentive to return home, irrespective of whatever application you are putting in, they want to see that you are coming home. Ibukunluwa Miss Tosin, Ibukunluwa _94, and Miss Tosin, thank you, we appreciate you. While this talk is going on, please, you would see a pin post. There's a link there. Please click on that link, provide the necessary information so that you can jumpstart or kickstart your student journey to Australia. Immediately you fill that form, our contact center agents will reach out to you, and then you can commence your journey. Now, back to incentive to return home. Like I mentioned, They want to see that upon completion of your program, you have circumstances or situations that will bring you back home. And one of that is, yes, family relatives. So your family ties must be strong. Another is your economic ties. So you may ask, what is my economic ties? It ranges. Some people have properties, which serves as their economic tie. Please note, if you're stating you have properties, ensure that you have available all property documents, because that will be backed and will require that to back up your statement of purpose. Now, for others, they have established businesses that are currently running. Also, this would apply. All your business registration documents issued from CAC must be available. Now, and then, economic ties actually varies. When you mention properties, some people, it's their parents that own the properties, and maybe perhaps because of family responsibility, it has been passed on to you to manage those properties. You can also provide your parents' property documents, provided we have documents to prove the relationship, that those documents actually belong to your parents. So a document to prove relationship will be your birth certificate, and they expect that the property documents, lease of agreements or receipt of purchase, everything around that should be in either or both of your parents' name. The same applies if your spouse has property documents, that also can be utilized as well. And then other thing that shows economic ties is also employment. Okay, so we have seen Paul Capture underscore. Thank you for joining. So for employment, we have seen people or potential applicants that their organizations have are in the know and have supported their intention to travel to Australia to acquire additional knowledge. There are even some where their employers have written duly signed letters showing that upon their return they have available job openings which they will be eligible to apply. Some even go to the extent of obtaining an offer, potential offer letter, where they may not disclose what their earnings will be, but at least show the designation they'll be occupying. So this also shows a strong tie to your home country. Please, for the purpose of emphasis, if you have properties and or your parents, there must be full and proper documents to show that. Now, some people may mention that their family relatives, so you have to also mention the family relatives you have. Then for some of us, perhaps you are engaged and maybe you have intention to get married when you return. Please state that as well. It's also another point that is worthy of note. So I'll just do a recap because I know some people are just joining. We've actually delved into a lot. I'll do a recap of what is expected to be on our personal statement. We expect an introduction. They expect you to talk about your education and working experience. They expect you to break it down to show why you're not studying your home country. Steady to the world or steady to the world. Thank you for joining. I'm a B underscore UH. We appreciate you. Now, back to what we are saying. They expect you to state why you're not studying in your home country. You have to provide academic reasons. You have to provide if there's a similar course delivery in your home country. Still, why have you decided not to study in your home country? And when I was, well, like I mentioned earlier, please try to tone down your words, your choice of words. Derogatory words about your home country will not be an ideal thing to do. So it's better we back up with more cogent reasons, talking about maybe our system of education, which is more theoretically based than practical based. You may want to look at the course outline and then make comparisons. Now, they also want you to show why you intend to study in Australia. When I mentioned this point, I said, please think of other reasons instead of emphasizing on living costs or tuition cost is cheap in Australia. Because when you're emphasizing on this point, or if this is the point you are portraying, you are giving the reviewer a notion that you are limited in financial capacity to undergo this project. So you can go to the school's website. There are readily available reasons which you can just pick on to buttress your points. Now, they expect you to state why you intend to study in that particular university of your choice. If you've considered other universities in other countries and looked at their distinctive features, and then see why, or make the reviewer see why you've chosen that school. Now, I also mentioned you stating why you want to study the course, how the campus you are choosing, why are you choosing that campus, what intake are you applying for, and then how is the course related to your academic and professional background, as well as what do you hope to acquire and in terms of career. Now, you also want to mention your immigration history. If you've had a case of visa refusals or overstay, you want to state why you were refused the visa, the time, and explain in details what has changed as in terms of what the circumstance that made them refuse you versus now. Also, you want to state student visa condition. So currently, students are allowed to work 48 hours fortnightly. You may want to see other conditions that are attached to your student visa. It's readily available on the website, Department of Home Affairs website. Now, moving on, you also need to talk about your career plan. What is your career plan and how will the course assist the course you intend to go study? How will it assist on that? You want to talk about the benefits for your future in terms of returns, financial returns. You want to let them know when you complete the course, how it can provide a higher remuneration. Because come to think of it, this is a project and it's also capital based. So you are investing some amount of money. They want to see your economic returns. At the end of the day, acquisition of knowledge is good, but you and I know that it is all about the money. So they want to see, does it really worth it spending millions of naira to go study in Australia, acquiring this knowledge? What do you have to gain? You also need to state, do your research and state companies that you'll be eligible to work for or apply to upon completion of your program. You want to state your job roles, remuneration, and how the course will link into these roles. And then I mention that you have to also state if you have relatives onshore, provide their current visas and how they are related to you, as well as your sponsor for those of you that intend to utilize sponsors. Now, you also want to let them know that or convince them, because this is also something that is very, very important. You want to convince the person reviewing that upon completion of your program, you'll be returning to your home country. And what are those points that you can use? You want to talk about your family, relatives, that is the link. And then you want to talk about economic ties. Like I mentioned, economic ties could be if you own property, or if your immediate family or parents own property, or properties. If you have some investments, please note this has to be backed up by documentary evidence to show the economic type. And then the least but not the last, I mentioned employment. So some people might have gotten employment, or perhaps their employers are the ones sponsoring them. So more or less they will have documents to show that upon completion of their program, they'll be returning to take up their offers that they must have been given. So when we are able to do all of this, if you listen property is more or less like a comprehensive document or information you are passing on to the reviewer. So when we have our facts properly and put in place and well aligned, it should go a great extent in convincing the reviewer why you have decided to go to Australia and why you intend to go with the program. And please, there's a pinned address here. Please click on that link for you to commence your study journey to Australia with us. As soon as you click on that link, provide the necessary information that is required of you. Our contact center team will definitely reach out to you, and then we will be happy to support your student journey to Australia. I don't know if there are any questions or any comments you want to add. Princess _Bianuju, thank you. Yellow Day Chelsea, thank you. Nonso122, we appreciate you. So, Ini, do you have anything to say? It seems more people are just going while we.
Yes. Thank you so much, Liz, for that quite informative section. I must say that you and I have learned a couple of things. We have a couple of questions here, though we have very limited time. First question I have here is from Ivy. She says, at what stage do you require a statement of purpose? At what stage do you need to present a statement of purpose? Is it during the application or maybe pre-visa application?
All right. Thank you, Ini. In response to that, please note that we require your personal statement as a document for application. So alongside other basic or general documents, your statement of purpose accompanies your application. Like I said, it is you selling yourself and convincing the reviewer that the course you are applying for, you actually have genuine intentions to go study that course. So we require your statement of purpose at every stage, putting in the application during the GT stage. GT is the genuine temporary entrance assessment stage, is unique to Australia. And then definitely we'll use that document as well for your visa application.
Okay, great, fantastic. Thank you so much, Liz, for that. Second question here is a bit funny. The sender says, you mentioned we shouldn't compare directly our home country, that's Nigeria now, with the intended study country, that's Australia. How then do we draw a line between why we cannot study in our own country and why we want to study in Australia?
All right, thank you, Ini. I think there was a mix-up. Perhaps the person did not hear my statement. Maybe the person joined midway. I never said there shouldn't be a comparison. Please note what I said is we should tone down the words in which we use to describe Nigeria. Everybody knows what is happening, but we wouldn't recommend you using derogatory words that kind of portray the political civil unrest and the strikes in the country. So we expect you to, perhaps you want to look at the course outline. That shows a much more strategic reason. You may want to also compare, because we know in Nigeria, mode of learning is more theoretical rather than practical. So you may want to emphasize more on those points instead of mentioning that there has been strike for 20 years or 10 years, there's civil or political unrest. That gives a kind of wrong notion to the person reviewing, and also just automatically you're telling the person that if your country is experiencing civil or political unrest, trust me, if you go to Australia, it's peaceful. It means you don't have intention to come back. So that's that on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. This is a personal question that I think some of our guests may also want to know about. So all of these things you have mentioned about the personal statement, I'm aware that some schools, or maybe it's even a general requirement, that there's a cap, right, to the limit of characters, the characters that your personal statement should carry. Now, are you able to compress all of these things that you've mentioned into, maybe a limit of say 300 or 500, characters? How do you do that?
All right. Thank you, Ini, for that question. I intentionally did not mention that because I thought that would be asked. So, yes, there's a general requirement for the number of words. The number of words generally has been reviewed by the Department of Home Affairs is 300 words, not more than 2,000 characters. However, there are some schools that will be very specific in letting you know that some will tell you they need just one pager. We have seen schools that will state 750 words. Now, for the purpose, when we hopefully get to the visa stage, for the purpose of the visa processing, we usually say you do two statements of purpose. One is more or less like an abridged version that has 300 words, because on the visa application platform, there's a particular column where it can only contain 300 words. So what we will do when we're making your visa application is to copy the abridged version of your statement of purpose, indicates in it that we'll be attaching a more concise or more explanatory statement of purpose. And then when we get to the stage of attaching documents for your visa application, we will be attaching the more explanatory one. So for the abridged version, I can say you can do a one-liner response to be able to manage the words. So more or less, you can say, if for instance you are you are doing your introduction, at this stage you may just start, okay, you are a graduate of biochemistry in Nigeria, something, and you're applying for so course. So it's just an abridged version, one liner. You can choose why you study in Australia, just one line. Why do you intend to study in that school, one line, and all of that. You should be able to manage the number of words. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Liz. We have just a few minutes left to round this off. If you do have questions, kindly drop your questions so that Liz can attend to them in a few minutes we have left. In the meantime, there's a form pinned to this live section. If you check, you see the pinned form. Kindly fill the form, populate it with your basic information. If you intend to start this Australian journey, you want to study in Australia and you need guidance, we will find people to guide you and help you support the process. Please click on the link, fill the form, and one of our counselors will get back to you within the next 24 to 40 hours. I will be so happy to support your study journey to Australia. I think we just may have exhausted the questions we have here. Well, just to emphasize one particular point, I have personally come across some personal statements. You would think that they have personal vendetta against, the government or Nigeria as a country. I've read very nasty things being said about the country where you grew up, you most likely acquired your primary, secondary, and maybe even tertiary education. And then all of a sudden, it has become a country where all manners of things happen. Of course, we do know that the country is not as pleasant as we may want it, and that may be the reason some of us want to, go out there, explore better, quality of education, and then come back here to make something for ourselves. However, it's important that, like Liz said, we tone down, the language, the aggression. Of course, we know everyone is on the edge, right? But we tone down the aggression and ensure that we draw a balanced comparison, all right, between very important, topics as it relates to Nigeria and the country we want to study, that's Australia. Topics such as, access to quality education, access to even constant electricity, right? That's a very important reason to want to explore abroad study. Access to great libraries and all of that, than say all manners of things about our dear country, Nigeria. So that's just a quick one from me. If we do not have any more questions at this point, I just want to first say a big thank you to you, Elizabeth, for the presentation. Again, it was quite informative, and we do hope to have you again soon to deliver, such beautiful presentation, um, on any topic we do choose to inform our guests about. Thank you so much, Liz. And to everyone who has been a part of this informative section, I want to say a big thank you. We hope to communicate with you, all right, even after now. Again, please do fill the form. Populate the form with your basic information, your name, or your email address, and phone number, and other information, and we will be glad to reach out to you as soon as possible. Any last words from you
All right.
before we?
Thank you so much, Ini, and thank you everyone once again. For those that joined later when we had commenced the program, please click on the link or that is pinned, as you can see, and then we'll support your student journey to Australia. Now, one good thing that I can brag about IDP is our services are free. So imagine you having an organization that will support you all through the process. You have very qualified counselors heavily ready to respond to your questions, provide clarity, and support you all the way. It is something indeed very, very beautiful. Not many people have access to this kind of information or this kind of arrangement. And so we will employ you, the earlier the better, so that currently now February 2024 intake is ongoing, so that if you have plans for that intake, we want you to quickly reach out to us so that we can support you with that process. Also, IDP does not stop there. IDP is the same across the world. So we support you. We are not letting you go even after you've gotten your visa. We have our offices scattered all over Australia. You can also get immense support from our immigration consultants and our counselors should you require their services. So we are waiting on you. We are happy to support you. And this will be my parting note. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Liz, for that. And again, thank you everyone for being a part of this live section. This is where we'll be calling it a day. We hope to be in touch with you very soon. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
All right. Bye.